exposure to sunshine is certainly necessary for health. How can we healthfully develop and safely develop a suntan?
Well, it's a fascinating question, and it's one that I just recently wrote about in my upcoming book. Just put in a section on tan. Um, I think the secret is to tan and not to burn. When we get the idea that figure out how to tan without burning, then we're on a really good track, and that's really where you're trying to go. Um, some people are so sensitive to the sun that they have to start out with extremely short duration of exposure. And I've known people who started out with just 1 minute of sun exposure per day because that was all they could handle. And one woman in particular that I can think of who couldn't take a whole minute. She could only take a minute if it was at 7 in the morning, and then she could go out. When the sun first came over the horizon, and then she could go out for a minute, and then 2, and then 3, and eventually at 8 o'clock, and then 9 o'clock, and the way to build up a tan is like building up fitness. It's got to be a long, gradual process, something that isn't rushed, something that you are in no hurry to do. You want to tan, you don't want to burn. You must be aware of the environmental factors that play a role from, and I think primarily the biggest one is actually reflection. I would put reflection at the top of the list. Now, if you're on a sailboat and the sun is reflecting off the sails and off the deck and off every little wavelet, I've seen information. I haven't actually seen like a Geiger counter, a solar meter, but I've heard that you can get up to 100 times the normal strength of the sun if you were out on a sailboat. I've seen people in mountaintops. Well, the higher you go, the stronger the sun is because there's less particulate matter in the atmosphere, and there's in fact even less particles of atmosphere itself per cubic inch, and the sun just comes through a lot stronger. So if you're up at 12, 15,000 feet, the sun is coming through much, much stronger than it is down below, which is why you'll see pretty much every snowboarder and snow skier, if they're wearing goggles, they end up with the raccoon eyes. Whether or not they are, they end up with some kind of a snow glow. I've seen people sunbathing at 12,000 feet where they made a little, like a horseshoe. They carved out a horseshoe in the snow and put a lounge chair there in the horseshoe. The sun came into that horseshoe and then reflected off all the sides of that thing. And they were laying in the sun in bathing suits, each person in their own little horseshoe, just baking in the sun. Meanwhile, it's like 0 degrees out or minus 10 degrees out, but out of the wind, in dry weather, full sun, coming in from every angle. I mean, they are getting magnificent tan, and the sun's only 15, 20 degrees high in the sky. So although we hear, down at sea level, if the sun is only 30 degrees above the horizon or less, you probably aren't going to get any sun at all. Up at 15,000 feet, you sure do, even when the sun is at that very low angle. So the angle of the sun makes a big difference. The environmental factors. Are you on a white sand beach? I've seen people sunburn sitting in the shade on a white sand beach in full shade and still sunburn, uh, just from the reflection off the sand, coming in off every little angle off the sand. And it wasn't a lot, but all of them added up enough to burn a person who thought, how is it possible? And so we just have to look at those factors. As far as building up a tan, the trick is just to do it gradually, ever so gradually. But I think a healthy tan is an important part of not only bone strength, muscle strength, proper calcium metabolism, in fact, proper fat metabolism, um, which means proper heart health. You're getting into a whole lot of areas. Sun exposure is really valuable and important for our health. And just if you can't take much sun, then start out just taking a little sun. I think most people find, if not all people find, that they handle sunlight and the sun's rays far better on 80-10-10 than they do on any other approach. But it's not, as far as I know, because of lowering fat in the diet. This is a function of increasing not only fruits but also vegetables in the diet. Think about leaves on a tree. These skinny little things that don't burn. It can be 110 degrees out. It can be 115 degrees out, and the leaves on the tree don't just shrivel up and burn up and dry up and float away. They handle the sun incredibly well, as do fruits and vegetables handle sun. The grass handles sun incredibly well. And when we consume those factors, most of which are known as plant, some people call them plant nutrients. Some people call them plant chemicals. The word for plant is phyto. It's not like the dog Fido. This is with a T, Phyto. And so phytochemicals, or as most people refer to them these days, phytonutrients. There's more than 100,000 of these plant chemicals that we know are good for us to consume. We don't fully understand everything about the way the body uses them and what uses them for. But certainly one of the things that we notice when we start eating fruits and vegetables is increased tolerance of the sun's rays, less likelihood to burn. I've seen people who absolutely, positively could not go out in the sun at all. And within 4 weeks of starting 80-10-10, they could go out for a minute. And within 4 months of doing 80-10-10, they could take 30 minutes in the sun, even in the warmer parts of the day, and just not give it a thought. So it takes a little time for the body to take on such nutrients, but a lot of the phytonutrients in plants do help us with our ability to handle sunlight.
If you've tried other raw food diets, dabbled with 80-10-10, or if you're currently struggling to figure out how to incorporate the 80-10-10 diet into your life, here's a solution to help you succeed. Dr. Graham has created the 80-10-10 online Kickstart program to give you everything you need for success, including his personal tips and insights. Have Dr. Graham virtually hold your hand as he guides you to higher levels of health, energy, and fitness. It's absolutely the fastest way to adopt 80-10-10 and integrate it into your life easily and painlessly. The 80-10-10 Kickstart program is built around addressing the 6 biggest challenges people face when adopting 80-10-10, and Dr. Graham deals with them head-on. Complete clarity on the 80-10-10 guidelines, how to enjoyably manage eating at home, work, and socially, how to set up successful daily routines, a wide variety of meal ideas, how to go about buying food, and how to set up a kitchen that'll make it easy for you to succeed. If you don't want to waste your time fooling around with trial and error and want to get on the right track straight away, Then get started now. There's even an unconditional, no questions asked, 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's nothing to lose, and you stand to gain a lifetime of health and wellness.